All right, so welcome to Math 12, the mathematics of Legos. I'm Professor Miller. I have had lots of experience playing with Legos, as I believe most of you have as well. So the purpose of winter study is to have fun, to see a little bit about how math connects to various areas, and to be able to enjoy being in Williamstown at this time of year. All right, so there's going to be three major projects that you can split up into. If you want to do multiple things, that's fine. If you have friends who are interested in some of the stuff we're doing and they want to come in and help, absolutely fine as well. So what I want to do today is just give you a little bit of an outline as to what the class is going to be like. How many of you are freshmen? Okay, so winter study is running a little bit differently now than in previous years. So some of the stuff will not make sense to you. I will explain why we've done the changes. And then I'll just break us up into groups and just start planning what we want to do. Unfortunately, one of the things we are doing for this class is we are building a bridge over the chasm in Presky on Martin Luther King Day. We've been doing this for a couple of years. That is on January 15th. This is a math class. You really don't need that many skills. You need to be able to do basic algebra. So subtract today's date from January 15th, and that's how many days you have to get ready. If you want to buy things, figure out how long it's going to take for them to arrive. So frequently we are coming up with the final design live because pieces have either arrived a day or two before or sometimes even the day of the build. For those of you who are working on the elementary school or the Lego Challenge, which I'll talk about in a few moments, the time pressure is much less. But for those of you who want to do the bridge, we have very little time to get this done. All right, so main goals, three things. Lego Challenge. How many of you know what a Lego Challenge is? Okay, so you can go online and upload a Lego idea, a Lego set that you would like to have the Lego company build. And if you can get 10,000 people to vote for it, Lego will consider. Now, the advantage of being on a college campus is basically with all the people you know and the people you know whom they know and whatnot, getting to 10,000 is not going to be a problem. Getting to 10,000 with the set that Lego will consider building, that's the difficulty. So we could put up a piece of crap and get 10,000 votes. That's not a challenge. All right. In previous years, I'll show some pictures later, we tried to do something for race cars, for Formula One racing. And the problem is, can you get things at a good skill set so that it'll be playable? Who is your market? So again, this is supposed to be a springboard class. Lego is in the business to make money. If they're going to make a set, who is going to buy the set? How many of you out of curiosity have bought a Lego set? How many of you have bought a Lego set in the past, say, 2 years? Okay. For a long time, who were Lego sets for? Little kids. Yeah, I saw somebody going like this, right? And in fact, there was, it might have been Mindstorm, but there was one of these, Lego programming things, I think it was Mindstorm, where some engineers opened up the system and started hacking into the code. And at first, Lego was very upset about this. And then they realized, why are we upset about this? These are adults who don't have to get permission to buy sets. They can buy more expensive sets. They can buy multiple copies of the sets and do more involved things. And so the market of who Legos are for has greatly changed. And you now have a lot of specialty giant sets that you're not going to get a little kid. How many of you have seen the Lego movie? Where things go all the way up to age 99, for how old you can be to play with things. How many of you have gone on toy aisles in a store? Where are the Legos located? Kids section. Be more specific. Are they all in one place? Yes or no? Frequently, Legos are split up into two places. Anybody know which two places? The boys' aisle and the girls' aisle. And then it becomes a really interesting question. What do you consider girl Legos? What do you consider boy Legos? Legos for years, unfortunately, has been overrepresented with men versus women in terms of who plays with them. There is no reason why that can be. Is part of this a function of which sets they do? And so Lego has tried over the years to have various lines that would be more appealing to different groups. They now have the Lego Friends line with different types of colors, different types of minifigures, and they will often have sets in both the boys and the girls out, and you will sometimes see the same set in two different places. But it's an interesting question as to who you're marketing and how you're doing it. So one idea is to try to come up with a design that we think Lego would build. How many of you have seen The Big Bang? Wait, no one has seen the TV show The Big Bang? Okay. So they have Big Bang. Wow, okay, I was not expecting that one. They have a TV show called The Big Bang. It involves physicists. It's often funny. I actually know one of the stars. Lego built a set from a Lego idea that somebody submitted on The Big Bang. What do you think might be a problem if Lego decides to go with that and build that set? So, I mean, it's a popular TV show. It doesn't seem to be so in this room. Game of Thrones? People seen that at least? So what if Lego decides to build a Game of Thrones set? A lot of people would probably want to buy it. Why might Lego elect not to build a Game of Thrones set? Licensing fees. When I was a kid, the Lego sets were crap. I know this is being recorded. Right? You didn't want to keep the set when you were done building it because it really wasn't that good of a spaceship or a building or whatever. So you would break it down and you would have a giant bucket. If you look at the sets nowadays, the sets are cool. They have great functionality. There's a lot of things you can do with them. They look like what they're supposed to. They also have a lot more specialty pieces, which is one of the reasons why it's a lot easier. So when you have a situation like this, Lego doesn't have to pay anybody. They're just making a generic spaceship, a generic police station, a generic fire car. Look at all the Lego Star Wars sets. Look at all the Lego Batman or the DC Universe or the Harry Potter or the Lord of the Rings. These are extremely popular lines. But now Lego has to share money with the licensors. They have some Lego ideas that were coming from NASA. From the Apollo rocket was one. I'm not sure if that came through the Lego ideas. But it's a big issue for Lego as to do they want to pay licensing fees and how much are they going to be. Another issue is going to be what kind of specialty pieces are you going to need for it. People often like the sets to look realistic. How difficult is it going to be to make the set realistic as a function of the number of pieces you need? So when you're trying to do a Lego idea challenge, you really need to think about what kind of pieces are there. Now there are software programs that will allow you to build things online where you can actually choose whatever pieces you want. And so this way we don't have to worry about, have we purchased everything? Some of the people last year and the year before were very interested in trying to do something with cars. I have a lot of sets with car pieces if we want to try to do something like that. If possible, it's nice if you can actually build a line where when you're pitching the idea, it's not just a standalone set, but there's other sets people would buy with it. MLK Bridge, so for the past 2 years, we've been trying to build a suspension bridge in honor of Martin Luther King Day. So the first year we did it over the mantle in Peresky, I'll show pictures later. The second year we did it basically spanning the chasm on the first floor. This year I have permission for us to build it on the second floor across the chasm. I had to promise we would lose at most 2 freshmen. So sophomores and hires are not allowed to be harnessed. I have talked to the Williams Outdoor Group. They will work with us to put you in harnesses and to secure you so that it will be a safe experience for those of you who are doing this. I was told I am not allowed to have you hanging from the ceilings, unfortunately. It would make it a lot easier if we could do that. What we will try to do is we will build the bridge along the side and then probably just shift it over. So later today I will show you a few pictures and I will show you some of the supplies we have. If there's anything else you need, we need to order it extremely quickly. I think we made the decision last year that we would allow dental floss to be used in the bridge. You can decide whether or not you consider that cheating. There is now Lego strings and whatnot that they do provide in some of the sets, so it's not so bad. The last thing is an outreach with the elementary school. Is there anybody here who goes to the elementary school by chance? Okay, so some of you have already done this. So I'm actually on 2 school committees right now. I'm on the middle school, high school committee, and we've just agreed to regionalize the schools of Williamstown and Lanesboro. I'm on the transition committee there. I have 2 kids who are in 5th and 3rd grade who are TAs for this class, and I do a lot of stuff with the elementary school. It's a lot of fun to go and play with the kids. So I have a lot of sets. A lot of these have motors and programmable stuff. I will bring those in the latter half today for people who want to see that. There will be a lot of different challenges we can do, trying to use Legos to interest the kids in mathematics and science. Anything you want to do, happy to work with you on stuff like that. Okay, so this is for my wedding cake. This was actually part of a Lego enterprise I built many years ago and had to reuse those pieces. All right, so other Lego challenges. I'm going to risk asking, does anybody know what this is supposed to be? Yes, the enterprise, under 10 pieces. So this was actually done in the new Sawyer library. They have that little area where they have some Legos. I think the good Legos slowly disappear over time. And so what can you do with a small number of pieces when you don't allow yourself specialties? All right, so just plan for the course. First week, some introductions, teaching people how to read a clock. Lego, as I said, is a springboard to mathematics. And then if we need to purchase things, I'm trying to iterate this as many times as possible. We need to act essentially by the end of this week at the latest, if not by tomorrow. For those of you who are going to do the Lego Idea Challenge, you want to spend a little bit of time doing some research. See what other Lego ideas have been successful. You can go online and see what people are proposing, and you can see which things are getting votes. And then you can see which things does Lego actually choose to produce. How many of you plan on being a professional Lego architect later in your life? Okay, so no one is really planning for a career in Legos. The hope, though, is that a lot of the stuff we're going to see for this will prepare you for things later in life. You need to make a pitch. You need to convince somebody to do what you want to do. How do you do that? How do you gather the evidence? How do you make a compelling argument? So that is a really important thing to do. It's a very useful skill. The big build day, as I said, will be Martin Luther King Day, which is the 15th, less than 2 weeks from now. Okay, so we had a lot of fun in previous years doing posters for the Superstar Challenge. So this was the 3,152-piece Imperial Star Destroyer. The goal was to do it from an unopened box in less than 10 minutes. So the first year we did it in about 10 minutes and 20 seconds. We were all set to finish and be under 10 minutes when the student is putting in the last little piece and notices that someone had built it backwards. Quickly takes it down, is reassembling it as fast as possible, but by the time he flips everything, it's 10 minutes, 20 seconds. Fortunately, you never put yourself in a situation where you only have one item if it's the item that really matters. We had 2 unopened Superstar Destroyer boxes. So we opened up the second one, which is another $450. Now it's actually over $1,000 to buy the set. That time it was about 11 minutes because one of the groups dropped the giant wing that they were making, and they had a decision to make. Should we start from scratch and just break everything down, or should we just try to fix it from where it was? And they were off by 1 row. And so the next year we actually succeeded. We increased the class size to 60. Both years we had lots of elementary school kids. But there were a lot of really good lessons to learn from that. We're not doing a time challenge this year, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about this. So we had 7 bag captains. The set was broken up into 7 bags. Each bag captain had an assistant. Each bag had a person who was in charge of sorting. Anybody ever see Futurama? All right, there's one piece that looks like Bender's mouth. And we call that the Bender's mouth piece, and we needed to find it at a certain time. And somebody's job was to very quickly look when the pieces were on the table to find that quickly. Fortunately, we can train elementary school kids to do something like that. We had 7 strategists. For each bag, come up with a strategy as to how do you want to do the building. Some of the things we don't need until a certain amount of time, so we could afford to do it slowly. We could afford to give it to elementary school kids who weren't that fast, or to some college kids who weren't that fast, because we didn't need it. There were other things that had to be done really fast. Well, I really can't put this on until the thing that's going on is done. And so we were dynamically moving the first year people from one bag to another. And you're building the base. We don't need the base until 5 minutes into the challenge. So for the first 2 minutes, help bag 2. Bag 2 just has too much to do. And so it was really fun trying to do this. All right, so I've talked about the outreach activities. If people are interested, when my brother got married, his friends got him the Millennium Falcon for his for his enjoyment, so that he would at least have one wedding gift that he would like. Unfortunately, he opened it. It was about $500 when they bought it. If you have it as an unopened set, it's between, I think, $5,000 and $6,000 right now. So for those of you who are interested in a career in finance, Legos, if you choose the right set, and postage stamps. I think postage stamps have gone down once in the past 10 years, but for the most part, postal prices go up. The forever stamps is actually a pretty good investment. If people are interested, I do have the Falcon for my brother. If people want to build that, I'm happy to do that. People want to see movies. So Michael Osland, whom you've all read either by now or by the end of today, is actually going to be coming to campus. And so he will be giving a series of talks and events on Wednesday the 17th. It's a shame he won't be here on the 15th to film what we're doing, but he's the executive producer of the Batman movies. He actually bought the rights to make Batman movies in the 1970s. So I'm really looking forward to his visit. For those of you who've already read his stuff, you know he has a very interesting life experience as to how he got on top. If people want to do presentations, if the made projects don't sound that interesting, I'm happy to do something like that. People have done that absolutely over the years. Okay, so grading course requisites. Everybody should have basic algebra skills, on the order of 15 minus 3. That's the level at which I expect you to understand mathematics. You must come to class. You must be on time. If you can't be here on time, please let me know. I strongly encourage you to participate. So there will probably be a small paper at the end of the year talking about what was your experience in the class, what did you like, what did you learn. What was fascinating is when we did the first Superstar build, we did it, first year was in Peresky, second year was in the 62 Center. And there was a huge split from the students as to their experience with the build. A lot of the students were incredibly nervous competing and building in public with everybody in the galleys looking down on them. And a lot of the other people, mostly athletes on sports teams, like, yeah, bring it on! And just were really pumped from doing this with everybody watching and the crowd and feeding on that. So just things to think about. So for those of you who are freshmen, things have changed. It used to be possible to get a high pass in a winter study course. That is no longer an option. Does anybody know why high passes are not an option? Law schools consider anything that has 3 levels of grading necessary to be converted to A, B, and C. And so a pass, which is the grade that almost everybody gets in a winter study, was considered as a non-A grade and was slightly hurting Williams students in applying to law school. So I see some people shaking their heads. We have a speed limit of 19 somewhere on campus, and you can figure out why if you read US News and World Report. We have a speed limit of 19. Because anything with 19 or fewer students is considered a small class. So if you look at why classes are capped at 19 and not 18 or 21, that's the reason. We no longer have high passes available. The second time we did the Superstar story, I told everybody, if we get it done, everybody gets a high pass. If we don't, everybody fails. We broke the record for most high passes given in a winter study course. We did it in, I think, a little bit under 9 minutes. All right. So this is a math class. We are Department of Mathematics and Statistics. How many of you have taken at least one math class in college? Excellent. At least one stats class in college. Excellent. So here is a Lego set. I want you to evaluate it and tell me what statistics should I look at to evaluate this. So I do, as some people here know, a lot of research in baseball. I actually have some students in this class who are working right now with me in a multi-million-dollar MLB lawsuit. And so if people are interested in opportunities like this, please let me know. A lot of this comes down to finding what is the right statistic to look at. Any football fans here? Okay. Who knows what the quarterback ranking is, or the quarterback rating is? Okay. What's a good quarterback rating number? A good day? Okay, in the hundreds. Can you give me the formula? No. Is there anybody here who knows the formula for quarterback rating? But it's converted to a scale so that for those of you who follow the sport, if you're in the hundreds, it's really good. If you're in the 60s and 50s, it's really bad. There was actually a game between the Jets and the Bills many years ago where the Jets quarterback threw 8 passes, 2 completions, 3 interceptions. He actually would have had a better quarterback rating if, even though he was a Jets quarterback, you just considered him playing for the Bills. Okay? When the number is that low, you don't really need that much context to understand it. But there are other things where small differences have huge impact. And so you want to figure out what is the right thing to focus on. For batting averages, is there a huge difference between batting 280, 285, 290, 295? How important is batting average to other statistics like on-base percentage? How much should different things count for? You know, an on-base percentage, a walk and a hit count equally. Maybe they shouldn't count equally. So for something like this, if you were trying to evaluate this set, what statistics would you say are important? What things really matter? I'm not sure how well focused this is. So here's the set. Yes? Number of pieces. Number of pieces should be a really good statistic. Excellent. What else? Yes? Number of different pieces. You know, what's the complexity of the set? And this becomes an interesting question. Do you think a bigger set has a higher complexity than a smaller set? So do you think generally a set with more pieces will have more types of pieces than a smaller set? How do you think that the relationship depends? Do you think it's linear? Do you think it's quadratic? Do you think it's maybe square root? Do you think it's logarithmic? This is actually very similar to evolution in terms of as you get bigger and bigger and you get more complex. How does your complexity change? All right, so we've got number of pieces. We have types of pieces. There's another really obvious one that should matter when you're evaluating the set.
The range of ages that they think people should be.
Yeah, I'm glad you said suggested. Right, those are suggested age ranges. Okay. What else? Cost. You know, how much does the Lego set cost? So when you're trying to evaluate if this is a good deal, now you could also put in other things such as, is this from a major series? You know, this is a Lego Star Wars set. Is it something from the Star Wars universe that you care about? You know, it's an X-Wing. This is one of the good things in the Star Wars universe, as opposed to just one of the creatures that George Lucas likes to put in the background in the digitally remastered Star Wars movies. You know, I'm not going to be as excited about seeing one of those. Certain sets appreciate a lot in value. Certain sets are good deals or bad deals. And the idea roughly to how would you estimate if this set is reasonably priced? What might be a good statistic to look at? So how would you tell if this is, yes? I'm sorry? So that's an interesting one to look at. It's just the total weight. But by that argument, then, the heavier the set, the more valuable it is. So I want to know if it's a good deal. So I want to combine some, yes? Maybe cost per piece. So cost per piece is a really good, easy statistic to look at. Do you think this is the end-all, be-all statistic? No. It's a white cube. Right? You could you could have the white cube set that's available to purchase. It's not that exciting of a set. So cost per piece is going to completely miss complexity. It's going to completely miss which types of pieces. It's going to completely miss what object it makes. But it's not a bad test. So this is 21 cents per piece. So I'm not sure if CPP is a unit, but so here is one of the frozen castles. They've gotten better since then. This was 22 cents per piece. Notice anything? So this was 560 pieces, $120, 21 cents per piece. 292 pieces, $65, 22 cents per piece. What do you notice? I'm sorry? It's a lot cheaper, but it has a lot fewer pieces. Yes. It's almost the same price in what sense? Almost the same price per piece. Do you think almost all Lego sets essentially are around 21 cents per piece? Or do you think that as a professor, I have deliberately looked for two sets? No, and I want you to be aware of how easy it is to manipulate. I almost said voters, I'll say students or people. Okay, you can choose which information you're presenting. If I tell you a sports team has won 3 of their last 4 games, does it sound like the team is playing well? They've won 3 out of 4. That's a 75% winning percentage. If I tell you they've won 3 out of the last 4, what do you know has happened? You know a couple of other things.
They probably lost the game before.
They probably lost the game 5 ago. Otherwise, I'd say they've won 4 out of 5. So you know they've actually won 3 out of 5, so that's a 60%. You also know something else. Yes. But it's a little bit more than that, though. They have won at least 2 in a row. Look at their first 3 games. Their last 3 games. What must have happened in their last 3 games? They must have lost once, right? Because I've said they've won 3 out of 4. If they've won their last 3 games, I would have said they've won 3 in a row. So by saying they've won 3 out of 4, I'm choosing the very best way to view what they're doing. And that gives you a 750 winning percentage. If I do it their last 3 games, we're now at 66%. If I do their last 5 games, it's actually at 60%. And given that you've played 5 games and you can't, well, some sports don't allow you to have a tie, you expect to have about 2.5 wins, 2.5 losses. So being 3-2 is really nothing to be proud of. Unless, of course, you're the Cleveland Browns, in which case break out the champagne, celebrate. Sorry. So I am deliberately. Is there anybody here who is a Cleveland Browns fan? Okay. All right. Out of curiosity, do people know that the Cleveland Browns are not the Cleveland Browns? This is a football trivia question. Does anybody know who the Cleveland Browns are? The Cleveland Browns are not the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns actually moved out of Cleveland several years ago and became, I believe, the Baltimore Ravens. And then Cleveland was given a new franchise. And so they've said that the new franchise will have all the history of the old Cleveland Browns franchise. But the team that actually was the original Cleveland Browns is now, I believe, the Baltimore Ravens. All right. So I have chosen to give you these 2 sets. What should you do? Do you think that it's really just approximately 22, 21? Go online, look at a couple of sets and see, does this really hold constant? Here's the Superstar Destroyer. In 2015, it was selling for like $600 to $800 if you could find it. 3,152 pieces. Now it's selling for about, this was, I think, last year's number of 1,000. I haven't looked it up today. So it's about 19 to 25 cents per piece. Here's the London Bridge. $240 for 4,295 pieces. Bargain price of 5.6 cents per piece. This is terrific. Why do you think this set is so undervalued? So one thing is, this is not related to any chains. I'm giving you a small data set. Everything else is from a chain. So maybe the merchandise fee, the licensing fee is that much that it drives up the cost by a factor of almost 4. That's one possibility. Any other possibilities?
That's an older set.
It's not, I don't think it's an older set, or if it is, it's not a significantly older set.
They might have produced more of them.
So one thing is, it could have been, might have produced more, and they've produced so much, they just got to lower the price to get rid of surplus. I was recently giving a talk at Williams and Mystic, and my family went to the aquarium, at which point we realized that the Mystic program doesn't have passes for the Mystic Aquarium, they have passes for the New England Aquarium. But my daughter found a really beautiful giant penguin that she loved, and it's normally $50, on sale for $10 or $15. I gotta get it. So, is it that low of a price because they bought too many of them and they're trying to get rid of them? Or are they just marking it up and just saying it's normally $50 and now saying it's $15 to try to convince people to buy it? Absolutely could be because of supply and demand. There are certain sets that are very rare and hard to get. If you go online to Amazon, like the original Falcon, that's at $5,000, $6,000. What's another reason why this might have such a smaller cost per piece? Fewer specialty parts. So maybe it doesn't have as many good pieces. And so related to that is a lot of these pieces are really small little bricks that aren't that interesting. And it's so overwhelming in this case that the piece complexity actually kicks in. All right, so this was from a few years ago. I haven't checked what it is now. $5,999.99. So it was a little bit under $6,000 back then. Only one left in stock. And so the question is, do people actually pay this amount of money for stuff like this? But there are certain sets that appreciate enormously. And so my brother and I have put aside a couple of sets for our kids. We figure Either they'll be worth a lot in the future, or worst case scenario, what will happen? Yeah, kids get to play with them. I mean, it's not a big deal. If it doesn't go up that much in value, just open up the set and play with it, right? Any history majors here or poli-sci majors? Okay, not too many. A good thing to look at is in the early days of the United States of America, shortly after the War for Independence, there were a lot of uprisings about taxes on whiskey and alcohol. And the reason was, paper currency was very rare. You could actually convert a lot of your crops to alcohol and store it. And worst case, what could you do with it? I know a lot of you are under 21, so you might not be able to figure that out, but some of the older seniors maybe can figure out what you might be able to do with stuff like that. A lot of fascinating Lego art. Mass Mocha a couple of years had a wonderful exhibit where they had work from Sean Kenny. Just a couple of different things. All right, so in a few minutes, I'll start talking about some of the math that I want to do. I've just posted slides over here with various things. Okay, so this was from I think 2 years ago when we were trying to do something for Formula One, trying to do a racetrack. And one of the reasons we thought this might be a good choice is you have lots of different options. You could have different racetracks for different parts of the country. You could have the ability to make your own racetrack, to design your own races. You have maybe some iconic buildings you can use. You have different types of cars you can use. Just a couple of the various sets. Going into some of the Lego bridge. So this is something I found online. This was what we did the first year, just doing it over the mantle and Peresky, because they would not give us permission to do anything too much larger. And so this was just basically a proof of concept, just to show that we could do a suspension bridge. So you'll notice there's nothing in the middle. We have two towers. We learned that you do not want to have the towers going straight up. Why don't you want to have the towers going straight up? So it's some basic physics. It's going to pull them in. I don't know if you can see it that well. No, you can't see it that well in either picture, how these are chained down on the side. So last year, we actually had it spanning the entire chasm. A big question is always going to be, how thick do you want to make it? The thicker it is, the more impressive it looks, but the more weight you have pulling down. And while the Legos don't individually look that heavy, as you're going on the order of 25 feet, it does pick up. So over here, you can see a little bit of just wrapping it around over there to basically be a support. Okay, so what I want to do now is I'm going to just pause for a few minutes and just let people break up a little bit into groups as to what you're interested in. Okay. I can't stop it.